Hello and welcome to the show. We start this week's Tuner Thursday with a Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale from Nathan McCain 2. The 360 Challenge is a car that I very much like. It's a fantastic car to drive. It drives very similarly to the Dodge Viper ACR. It has an awful lot of grip, this car. You can carry quite a lot of corner speed with just a standard 360 Challenge. They are very nice through the corners, and they're very much how I like a car. They're very, very planted. The back end doesn't really like moving around. Now, yes, you can slide a car. I mean, it's a decently powerful rear-wheel drive Italian supercar. And on Forza 5, the cars tend to have a little bit more grip. They tend to slide around a little bit more when you put the power down. So yes, you could slide a 360 Challenge around, but much like with an ACR Viper, it doesn't like it. It doesn't really like sliding around. I mean, this was a lightened, sportier version of the Ferrari 360. It was designed to be quicker around the track, and that's what it is. It's a very, very nice car to drive. So I was very interested to see how this car would do at the Long Beach circuit. There are a couple of problems though with this vehicle. Well, first of all, it starts off in A-Class. It's a fairly low A-Class car, but that still means that there isn't as much room for upgrades on this vehicle. It's, you know, you can't, if you're going to have race tyres on it, which I'm assuming this is running, you're not going to get much room for any engine upgrades. You're not going to get that much power out of the car, so you're going to have to compromise somewhere. And this car is lacking on the power. It's struggling on the power front. It has got a mere 457 horsepower, which is quite a lot less than some of the other cars. I mean, pretty much all of the vehicles that we've seen before have been running 500 plus horsepower. So this is a little bit down on power compared to the rest of the cars. It's also quite a lot down on torque, only 293 foot-pounds of torque. That's not very much compared to the rest of the vehicles. I mean, the Viper that we saw last week was 616 odd horsepower, almost 600 torque. That's a lot more than this Ferrari. Yes, it is relatively light, 2,671 pounds, making it sort of 400, 500 pounds lighter than the Viper, but it really is lacking in the horsepower and the torque front, which means straight line speed is not particularly good. Acceleration isn't amazing. I mean, the acceleration isn't too bad because it is still a light car, but it does struggle. Certainly down the front straight, it does struggle with the straight line speed. It's just not as quick as the other cars. Yes, through the corners it is very nice. It is very easy to drive through the corners. It's good under braking. But we are really lacking some straight line speed. There's no question through this first corner, this kind of kink. There's no question it's going to be flat out. It's easy flat out through there, and it's not going to run wide, and you're not risking understeering into the wall. Again, you're braking at the 400-meter board. However, this is, what, 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour slower than the Ferrari GTO. That's about how much speed we're lacking in a straight line. It's just not as quick a car. Yes, it's nice through the corners, and yes, we can. The brakes are lovely. It's a very consistent car. You can push this car quite easily. You've got to be careful of the of the curves. That's just a general warning with all of the cars. You've got to be careful with the curves. They'll throw most vehicles about. I mean, I was trying to make up as much time through the corners as I possibly could with this car because I know I'm lacking the straight line speed. So I got a little bit exuberant going over the curbs on that particular one, and sure enough, it chucked the car out sideways. Yeah, it's a nice car to drive, easy, consistent vehicle to drive. However, it is lacking quite a bit of the straight line speed and some of the acceleration to an extent. Up next, we have got a Lotus 211 from L Gamer 575. This is by far the least powerful car that we have had. 285 horsepower, that's it. That's all you get from the Lotus. Yeah, that's not very much from the 211, and there's not very much torque either, 202 foot-pounds of torque, so least powerful, least torquey. However, it is the lightest car, 1,676 pounds. It's essentially a track car. I'm not even sure if these are road legal. I think you have to buy a special pack for one in real life. You have to buy a special pack to make them road legal. It's a track car that we've found driving at Long Beach. Now, the 211, certainly on Forza 4, was very much a leaderboard car. It was it could put to shame most or quite a few S-Class cars. I think they started to, or it was around the top of A-Class. It could quite easily beat quite a few S-Class cars because it had so much grip. You could carry so much speed through the corners with this car. However, on Forza 5, it isn't. I don't really see this around. Maybe on some tracks, but most of the tracks you don't really see this on the leaderboard so much anymore. And it suffers from a similar problem to the KTM Crossbow and the Aerial Atom, in that it has quite a lot of has an awful lot of front-end grip. However, the rear of the car likes to slide around. Certainly helped when you run over the curbs. Don't do that. That was a silly idea. Again, another instance of me trying to take as much quarter speed as I could, just clipping the inside curb, and that chucks the car about. Yeah, it doesn't have the rear-end grip. It isn't as bad as the KTM or the Aerial Atom. It's nowhere near as bad as them, and certainly this one has done a good job of making the car easier to drive. It's still oversteery though. You can't quite get away from that. It is still quite an oversteery car. I mean, especially with you've got these big curbs. That wasn't the best line I've ever taken through the first or for the second corner there. But even then, it was sliding about. Certainly, if you brush the curbs on the inside, it'll throw the back end of the car out. It makes it kind of difficult to drive. In all honesty, it's not. Yeah, it's not the nicest car to get around the corner. As I said, this is much better than the standard 211, but you still got that oversteer if you're not careful with it, which means you don't quite have the same confidence through the corners. You can't quite carry as much corner speed. You can still carry an awful lot of corner speed, though. Don't get me wrong, you can still absolutely fly around a track with this car, as you would expect from a track vehicle. Also, the brakes are fantastic, absolutely amazing on here. Again, not surprised by this, but they are outstanding. You're braking probably 75 to 100 meters later than everything else. Nothing can get even close to this car under braking. You're down towards the first quarter. I think it's about 140 miles an hour. Again, this isn't the quickest car in a straight line. We're not expecting it to be that fast in a straight line. It hasn't got the power. It's got half the horsepower of most of the cars that we see on here. However, you're braking from 140 miles an hour. It's about the 300 meter board, maybe just a little bit before the 300 meter board, and you will get it stopped and turned for the first corner. Again, I think this was from slightly earlier in my 10 laps with the 211, but you could brake absurdly late with this car. It is really very, very good under braking, and then we see me having all sorts of problems with the Lotus. That's what happens when you get it wrong. Yeah, if you get things wrong with this car, it's you will be losing a fair bit of time. It will be quite oversteery. You will have to be careful with the Lotus. Again, I think I locked the rear brakes slightly coming into that corner. But if you do get everything right, if you string a lap together, of course, the Lotus is very, very quick. Our third and final vehicle comes from Cedric Weaver, and it is another Voxel Astra. This time, it's what was the 1.6 tech line. It's not a 1.6 anymore. Has a 4.1 litre engine. I'm assuming it is the V6 that has been bored out a little bit to make it a 4.1. Yeah, it has the most power, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. In an episode that has a Lotus and a Ferrari, a Voxel Astra is the most powerful car today, with 535 horsepower. It's also got more torque than the Ferrari, with 376. You see what I mean about the Ferrari not having the power or the torque? Yeah, an Astra is better in that respect. As you can probably guess by the lack of smoke pouring off the front wheels, this is indeed four-wheel drive, and it's another heavy Astra. Now, the Astras start off in, or this one will certainly be starting off in D class. I'm guessing this one hasn't had weight reduction, or certainly hasn't had the race weight reduction, because it's 3,100 pounds, which is quite a lot of weight. I mean, admittedly, this is a bigger car. There's still a fair amount of weight on this vehicle, and there's certainly room to put the weight reduction on it. I'm assuming we have got racing tyres then to make up for it. This is a difficult car to drive, I will be honest. Now, as I've said, I do tend to like my cars a little bit understeery. I like the back end of the cars to be planted on the road. I don't want a car sliding around. If the back end's sliding around, I'm losing time. I deal better with a car that is slightly understeery. This is very understeery, and that's coming from me. If I'm saying a car is very understeery, then we know that it is, yeah, quite... I was really struggling. I mean, you'll see on the side of this car there are quite a few dings on the Astra, as, yeah, I ran wide through quite a few corners with this one. Damage is all on cosmetics, so it's not affecting performance in any way. But, yeah, understeer was a problem with this car. It was quite a fight to get it through some of the corners. I mean, of course, the bonus of having a four-wheel drive car is that I can boot it out of the corners, and even though we have 530-odd horsepower, there's no problems. There's no problems with the Astra with putting all of that horsepower down. You can chuck it out of the corners, it's fine, it goes, it shoots off down the road. However, it's the getting around the corners that the Astra struggles with. It's, yeah, it is a difficult car to get it to carry any corner speed because it has so much understeer. It's not too bad under braking. I mean, it's a bit on the heavier side. We're certainly not braking at the 400-meter board with this car into turn 1 as I do a little bit of grass. I got the roundabout completely wrong on that lap. Yeah, we're not braking as late with this car. I think it was around the 500-meter board into the second turn. Again, we're playing it very close. You'll see how much understeer there is going on here as I frantically try and keep this car under control. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to drive. Again, I was exploring all of the tyre bundles. Yeah, despite the weight, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad under braking. Certainly no worse than some of the other cars that we've had. It has decent enough straight line speed and decent enough acceleration out of the corners. It's just the trying to carry the corner speed. Again, you'll see coming into this one get a little bit better. We're still going all the way out towards the wall. I think I found this car was a little bit better across the curbs of the three vehicles. It was a little bit better. Probably helps being a four-wheel drive as well. I love the wing on the on the Astra Tech line. We've got one of the fantastic, about as silly as Forza 5's wings get. The first corner was flat out with this car, but it was a little bit on the scary side. On to the times, and we have a new second place car. The Lotus 211 can't quite beat the Ferrari GTO. It can carry huge corner speed, but in the end it's not quite enough to make up for the straight line speed that the Ferrari has. It's still not a bad time though from the 211, 124.4, beating the ACR Viper by about half a second. Yeah, 211 is a very quick car once you get things right. Easy to make mistakes in it, but once you do get things right, yeah, it is a very, very fast car. We have to look a little bit further down to find the Ferrari 360 Challenge. It's just a fraction behind my GTO with a 126.0. It just loses too much time in a straight line. It's just not got that straight line speed, the acceleration out the corner, the same as some of the other cars. And okay, Long Beach isn't a track that's all about long straights and so on, but there are still some long straight or longer straights to contend with. So yeah, the Ferrari just loses out. And we go down towards the bottom to find Voxel Astras. They are starting to crowd the bottom of the table. The one today did a 127.0, quicker than the VXR Astra, ironically, but yeah, just too much understeer. Couldn't carry any corner speed with the Astra. Decent acceleration, and yeah, I mean, you could put all the power down whenever you wanted to because of the four-wheel drive, but you just couldn't carry any corner speed because there was just so much oversteer. Anyway, that is it for this episode. If you would like to submit your cars for future Tuner Thursday episodes, you can go to our forum. There will be a link in the description. Find the official Forza 5 event section, and there is a thread in there for submitting your Tuner Thursday's car. However, that's it from me, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.